Hello, Buddha, everyone. So before we start, we'll observe the 5 precepts by going for refuge. So everyone chant with me. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. To observe the 5 precepts, repeat after me. I observe the precept of
I observe the precept of
abstaining from killing beings.
abstaining from killing beings.
I observe the precept of
I observe the precept of
abstaining from stealing.
abstaining from stealing.
I observe the precept of
I observe the precept of
abstaining from sexual misconduct.
abstaining from sexual misconduct.
I observe the precept of
I observe the precept of
abstaining from telling lies.
abstaining from telling lies.
I observe the precept of
I observe the precept of
abstaining from taking
abstaining from taking
intoxicating drinks and drugs
intoxicating drinks and drugs.
with the refuge of the noble triple gem.
The refuge of the noble triple gem.
I observe these precepts
I observe these precepts
for happiness in this life,
for happiness in this life,
for rebirth in heaven,
for rebirth in heaven,
to escape from the sufferings of samsara.
to escape from the sufferings of samsara.
May it help me and be a blessing.
May it help me and be a blessing.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, so everyone, last week we were able to finish Vedananupassana, and now this week we're going to be talking about Cittānupassana, which is the 3rd foundation in the 4 foundations of mindfulness. So Cittānupassana is something that is very, very necessary for us in order for us to develop our minds. If someone doesn't have Cittānupassana, if someone doesn't or isn't able to observe their minds, that means to see how their mind works, then they can't ever develop their minds. It's not possible. So Cittānupassana is one of the core foundations of developing the mind or meditating, because it's through observing the mind that someone can see how the mind is behaving, how they can see what they need to do to develop the mind. All those things come from looking at someone's own mind. So today we're going to be learning, and you guys actually were listening to this while I wasn't here, which was the very first Dhammapada verse. This is the first Dhammapada verse found in the Dhammapada, and is one of the most important verses. So I'm going to share screens here. Can you guys see my screen? So the first verse is Mano Pubbangama Dhamma Mano Setta Manomaya manasa che paduttena bhasati va karoti va tatonan dukkha manveti chakkangva vihito padang. So the meaning here is Manopubbangama Dhamma. Mind is the forerunner of all thought. That means whatever we do, whatever kind of ideas that come into our mind, the mind is there, has to be there in order for us to have those things. The mind is the chief. And now we're going to try to understand why mind is the chief, but just bear that idea in mind. Mind is the most important part in our lives, really. If someone with an impure mind, bhasativa, speaks, karotiva, acts, then tatonan dukkha manveti, then suffering follows that person. Like how? Just like the cartwheel follows the footsteps of the ox. Now, this Dhammapada stance is very, very important because this gives us the core foundation for Buddhism, which is that everything, our speech, our actions, all of that have to have intention behind them. Otherwise, karma doesn't form. If someone does something with intentionally, then karma is formed. Then there's a consequence for that, either that word or either that action, even that thought. So the most important is mind. That's why it says if someone with an impure mind, now he has to know his mind is impure. So if the mind becomes impure, and then if he speaks or acts, then suffering follows him. Because the words that he uses, the actions that he does, has to come from an impure mind. If there's an impure mind behind those, behind that speech and that action, then suffering comes behind him. But if this mind isn't impure, if the mind isn't involved in those words or those actions, then there's no suffering that follows behind. So if, let's say someone does something good, or let's take the first example. Let's say someone kills living beings. Behind that action, behind that evil action, what's there? There has to be an evil mind there. There has to be either a mind of anger, a mind of greed, or a mind of delusion. If one of those minds, if one of those states are there in the mind, then that action, that killing a living being, causes him to, in the future, to one day suffer. Why? Because he's collecting bad karma. So it's with an impure mind that someone does these things. Same with lying. Let's say someone tricks someone, deceives someone, then he tricks and deceives another person with an impure mind. If he doesn't have any intention to deceive them, he doesn't have any intention to trick them, then that is not a lie. He might accidentally say something, but no bad karma forms there. No suffering follows him. So what's important behind all our actions and all our speech is the mind. So if someone wants to tame themselves by speech and by action, let's say someone here doesn't want to kill. Let's say there's mosquitoes in his room, but he doesn't want to kill them. But eventually, through anger or through becoming annoyed, he ends up killing those mosquitoes. It's a very, very simple example. But behind that action of killing is an evil or an angry mind. So if he wants to one day stop killing, if someone wants to one day stop lying, he needs to focus not on his speech and his actions, but he needs to focus on his mind. If he purifies his mind, then his words and his actions also become purified. So if someone purifies the foundation, then everything that follows is also purified. Someone doesn't need to think, I shouldn't move my body and hit mosquitoes. I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't lie. I don't like doing that. He has to focus on purifying his mind. He should think, I shouldn't have an idea to trick others. I shouldn't have an idea to harm others. As he purifies his thoughts of those things, then he won't end up killing. He won't end up lying. He won't end up stealing. He won't end up committing sexual misconduct. He won't end up drinking. None of those actions, none of those evil things will occur. So Why is this simile very, very important? Because this, just like the cartwheel follows the footsteps of an ox, this burden is heavy for this animal. When there's weight on the cart, every single footstep this ox takes is heavy, is a burden for him. It's a burden for this animal. So when someone has an impure mind and he does something or he acts, then this weight, then this burden will follow him. It will become a burden from his future lives. It won't be something like right now, someone might do something evil. Someone right now might kill. But the consequences of those actions will be suffering. It will be a burden for that person. So our entire lives, those few years that we live our life in the human world, we should think these things that we do with an impure mind, these actions that we do with an impure mind, will give us a huge burden in the future, will give us huge suffering in the future. So what does the wise person do? He attempts to purify his mind. That way he knows then his speech and his actions will also become purified. So that is a very, very foundational idea that or concept that we need to have in our minds, which is that our goal should be to purify the mind. Our goal should be to develop the mind. When we do that, then our speech and our actions will also become purified. Now, in the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, under Cittānupassana, the Buddha explains how does a monk meditate? How does a monk dwell contemplating mind in mind? How does he do Cittānupassana? How does he observe his own mind? And then the Buddha goes on to explain, when there's a mind, when his mind is full of greed, then he understands my mind right now is full of greed. Then we'll explain these as we go. And then if his mind is without greed, he understands right now my mind is without greed. So here greed is another word for craving or lust. So what does he crave? What does he lust for? He has craving for, he has lust for things he sees with his eyes. So forms. Things he hears with his ears. Sounds. For smells, for tastes, for tangibles, and for thoughts. He understands? So let's say someone's thinking right now, okay, I'm going to go buy that shirt tomorrow that I saw at the store. It looked very, very nice. What's he thinking on? What's he contemplating on? He's thinking on something, a form. He's thinking about a form that he saw. As he thinks on that, he should understand, okay, my mind now is full of lust. And he observes that, he sees that. Okay, my mind right now is full of lust. Let's say it might be something he wants to eat. He remembers, tomorrow morning I'm going to wake up and I'm going to cook this and I'm going to eat this for breakfast. At that moment, what does he understand? Okay, my mind, there's a lustful thought in my mind. Now, this doesn't mean you go hungry and not eat breakfast. This means this person understands, okay, this is a thought connected with desire. As he sees that, then he's doing Cittānupassana. He's observing his mind. Then the Buddha teaches, he understands when his mind is not with greed either. A mind without greed, he sees as a mind without greed. That means this person he could be thinking of something else. He understands my mind right now, it doesn't have a thought connected to forms. That means something he sees, or something he hears, something he smells, tastes, touches, or thinks about. His mind doesn't have anything, a desire connected with those things. Then this person, what does he see? He understands if his mind is full of hatred, then he knows right now my mind is full of hatred. So again, what is a mind full of hatred? His mind is conflicted based on something he saw. So again, based on something he saw, his mind gets conflicted. Let's say someone's looking through their posts on Facebook or something, and he sees a mean comment or a mean comment on his page. Then what happens after seeing something, his mind gets angry, his mind gets conflicted. Why did this person write this? Why would he say this about me? And then again, what does he notice? Right now, my mind is full of anger. My mind right now is full of evil intentions. So he sees a mind full of hate as a mind full of hate. And again, this is connected with things he sees, things he hears, things he smells, things he tastes, things he touches, and things he thinks about. This could be very, very fine, like a very, very fine thought. Let's say you're walking down the street and you smell something bad, like a sewage or a dead animal. And immediately, without us even thinking about it, a thought comes, wow, that smells really, really bad. And there's a small conflict that occurs in our mind, which is, I don't like this smell. So at that moment, he should understand there's a conflict in my mind based on something I smell. Yeah, so doing Cittānupassana means. Then in the same way, he understands a mind without hate as a mind without hate. That means when there's no conflict in his mind around forms, around sounds, around smells, around tastes, around tangibles, and around thoughts, then he understands there's no conflict in my mind. At every moment, you can understand he's observing his mind. He's seeing how his mind is behaving. Then this person, what does he see? If his mind is connected with a thought of delusion, if his mind is with delusion, then he understands right now my mind is with delusion. So what does that mean? That means when he sees something that's actually foul, he takes it as beautiful. So you can see how deeply he's looking at his mind, because let's say he sees someone smiling, okay? And immediately a thought comes, he thinks, wow, that's a nice smile. That's a beautiful person. And then at that moment, he thinks, so at that moment, what is his mind connected with? His mind is connected with delusion. Why is that? It's because when he sees that person smile, what's he actually looking at? He's actually looking at some teeth. There's some teeth attached to some gums attached to his jaw. He's looking at those teeth. If someone were to remove his teeth, and we talked about this example before, and handed it to that person, if he removed all his teeth, handed that smile to that person's hand, that smile he just said, wow, that's a nice smile. If someone took out his teeth and handed it to them, he wouldn't say that's a smile. He wouldn't say that's a nice smile anymore. He would be grossed out. He would find it disgusting. But the moment on our normal day-to-day life, what do we see when we see people, when we see things? We always take, wow, that's something nice. But in reality, what we're looking at is something foul. So that's just one example. So he takes something that's actually impure and foul as something beautiful. He takes something impermanent as permanent. He takes something that's suffering as happiness. Those are all things, all thoughts connected with delusion. So it could be like we don't think about it in our day-to-day life. Like the things that are generally around us, even though maybe we haven't thought this is something permanent, we live our life based around that idea that this shouldn't break. This has to stay this way. Even ourselves, we don't have like the idea that we don't have the idea that we're impermanent, that we're going to age, that we're going to get sick. That's why if someone has that actual idea that we're impermanent, the things around us are impermanent, then when those things around him break, then suffering shouldn't arise. Why? If he knows this is going to break one day, this is going to become impermanent, this is going to change one day, then when that thing changes, when that thing breaks, then suffering shouldn't arise. But because we're always around the idea that this should stay this way, this shouldn't break, this shouldn't change, then when that thing changes, when that thing breaks, then suffering arises for us. So this person understands those thoughts that come into his mind that he thinks about, that are based around delusion. He understands right now my mind is based around delusion. And when his mind is at that moment free from delusion, maybe he's recollecting something. Now he sees that smile and he thinks that's just some teeth. That smile I'm so attracted to is just some teeth. As he thinks that thought, he understands right now my mind is free without delusion. My mind is not, that thought is not with delusion. That thought is with seeing the world through the Dhamma. So he sees that. Then he understands if his mind is constricted, Now, these English terms for these that we're going to cover from here and down are somewhat sketchy, which is that there's no real, like, we didn't make up a word or combine some words that kind of match, because there's no words for it. So it's good to kind of understand what the Pali is saying, or have an idea of what kind of thing the Supreme Buddha is talking about here. So here, this person knows, this monk knows, when his mind is constricted, right now my mind is constricted. So what Sankitang here means is that his mind is overcome by dullness and drowsiness. So that's one of the hindrances that we talked about before. But dullness and drowsiness means here. So let's say someone really likes to meditate. Okay, let's say someone thinks, okay, today morning I'm going to meditate. And he goes down to sit and he sits down to meditate. And then as he starts, he thinks, wait, I didn't eat breakfast yet. I'm going to eat breakfast and then meditate. Then he eats breakfast and then he sits down again. And then he thinks, okay, wait, I didn't brush my teeth yet. I'm going to brush my teeth and then quickly meditate. And then he goes and brushes his teeth and meditates. And then as he sits down again, another idea comes. Okay, wait, I'm going to read this chapter first and then I'm going to meditate. So what dullness here means is his mind is always giving excuses. His mind is always trying to prevent him from developing his mind. That's what it means by a constricted mind here. His mind doesn't want to develop. His mind will say, I'd rather watch a show. Okay, I'm going to watch this show. I'm going to finish this episode and then come and sit down and meditate. So whatever kind of development he wants to do, his mind always gives him excuses. Let's do this instead. We'll do it right after this. His mind is telling him that. Then he understands, right now my mind is constricted. My mind has dullness inside of it. My mind is overcome by dullness. And then drowsiness here means sleepiness. So what does he do? He tries to develop his mind and he ends up falling asleep. He ends up getting overcome by sleepiness. He can't focus his mind on one thing. So when he sees that, so look, when he sits down to meditate and he gets sleepy, what does the meditator think? What does this person think? Okay, right now my mind is sleepy. My mind is overcome by sleepiness. He sees that. As he sees that, that's part of Cittānupassana. We're supposed to do that. When we get sleepy, we're supposed to think, okay, my mind is sleepy right now. And when he does that, he's actually developing his mind. He's seeing a flaw in his mind. That's something good. Then, so a constricted, Sankitang means constricted, or that means it's overcome by dullness and drowsiness. Then the Buddha teaches, this person knows his mind is scattered, and he knows, okay, right now I have a scattered mind. Here, scattered here means restless. That means his mind, he tries to focus his mind, and his mind goes in all kinds of directions. He can't focus on one thing. So let's say someone's trying to do breathing meditation. He sits down to do breathing meditation, and then he thinks, no, I'm going to do asubha. And he switches to that. He sits down and he thinks, no, now I'm going to do loving kindness. Now I'm going to do impermanence. Now I'm going to do Iriyapata. Now I'm going to do Buddha Anusati. Now I'm going to do Dhamma Anusati. He thinks he's doing all these meditations and developing them, but really his mind is overcome by this, by restlessness. Why? He can't keep his mind on one thing. He can't focus his mind on one single thought for a long time. His mind is restless. It jumps from one idea to another idea. So when his mind is like that, he understands, okay, my mind right now is restless. Him recognizing that fault is part of Cittānupassana, is part of the 4 foundations of mindfulness. So a lot of people, when they meditate, they get angry. They always, like a lot of people say, so I try to meditate, and when I meditate, I can't focus for more than a minute. I can't focus for more than 30 seconds. And then I end up getting angry and I stop meditating. So what's happening there? Their mind is getting restless. So their mind isn't used to focusing on one thing. So instead of observing that their mind is restless, they get conflicted and they end up giving up their attempt at developing their minds. But what is the meditator supposed to do? Someone who wants to develop his mind, is supposed to see that flaw. He's supposed to realize, okay, my mind right now is scattered. My mind right now is restless. He sees that, and that's part of developing his mind. So if you guys, well, when you experience this, don't get conflicted with that. Just understand this is something normal. Then all the ones from here on, from Mahaggatang down, all of these are connected with a very, very well-developed mind. So here it says, this person knows an expansive mind, or a Mahaggatang Vachittang, Mahaggatang Chittanti Pajanati. That means he knows his mind is now developed to the point where the 5 hindrances are suppressed. They're suppressed without any effort. And he's obtained dhyanas now. So this is something he obtains in a level of a high meditative state. He's attained the first dhyana now. The 5 hindrances are gone, and he sees, okay, now my mind is concentrated. And he understands the opposite as well. If his mind isn't concentrated, if his mind is still being attacked by the 5 hindrances, he understands, okay, my mind is still being attacked by the 5 hindrances, still being bothered. So most of us, when we sit down to meditate, this kind of state is what we have to deal with for at least the first hour or two, which is we're constantly getting attacked by the 5 hindrances, our mind. Our mind is constantly going to something that we saw or we heard that we like, or is going to a conflict. Our mind is getting conflicted, or is going to sleepiness, or is giving us excuses to give up the meditation, or is going to restlessness and remorse. Our mind becomes restless, or then we start regretting over something we did in the past, or it goes to doubt. So those are the 5 hindrances. Our mind constantly in the beginning, as we sit down to meditate, is constantly barraged by these 5 hindrances. And you have to sit there and then try battling through all these 5 until you're able to somewhat obtain a level of concentration. So when that meditator, when he sees his mind is behaving in that way, he understands, okay, my mind is right now oppressed by the 5 hindrances. And then the Supreme Buddha goes on to explain these are all, so Sauttarang, Anuttarang, Samahitan, these are all talking about levels where his mind is developed to the point of dhyana. He's developed the 4 foundations of mindfulness, he suppressed the 5 hindrances, and he's now has a very developed mind. He's in dhyanas. So when his mind is developed in this way, he understands, okay, my mind is right now developed. My mind right now is concentrated. My mind right now is in dhyana. My mind is like this right now. My mind is in the first dhyana. My mind is in the second dhyana, third dhyana, fourth dhyana. He understands his mind in all of those aspects. He's able to observe that. As he sees his mind in this way, he understands, okay, my mind is behaving this way. My mind is acting this way. That's all part of Cittānupassana. Then finally, he understands if his mind is freed from the defilements, a freed mind, that means a mind that's completely free from anger, lust, and delusion. He understands, okay, my mind has been now completely freed from anger, lust, and delusion. So this is a thought only an arahant can have, only an arahant can see. Why? Because only an arahant is completely free from anger, lust, and delusion. And then if his mind isn't freed, if his mind isn't free from anger, lust, and delusion, then he understands, okay, right now my mind isn't free from anger, lust, and delusion. And he constantly inspects his mind. And then it says, so they meditate observing that aspect of the mind, which is that however his mind is behaving, he sees, okay, my mind is behaving in this way. My mind is behaving in that way. He sees it constantly. As he observes his mind, then he's developing his mind. He's seeing the flaws. Now, there's a very, very important sutta in Majjhima Nikaya, which is, someone asked Arahant Sariputta, you say defiled mind, or impure mind. Why is it important for us to know that our mind is impure? Okay, Why why do we even care to do Cittānupassana? Who cares? Why can't we just do Anapanasati and just develop our mind? Why do we have to do Cittānupassana? So in that sutta, Arahant Sariputta explains there's 4 types of people in the world. Okay? And those 4 types of people are, there's someone here, there's someone in this world who has an impure mind. And this person knows their mind is impure. Okay, so the first person has an impure mind and he knows his mind is impure. That's the first person. So everyone here will fall into one of these 4 people. So now try to see which person am I. Then the second person is, this person has an impure mind, but he doesn't have any idea that his mind is impure. He's clueless. So there's 2 people with impure minds. Then there's someone with a pure mind. Now, when his mind is pure, he knows, okay, right now my mind is pure. And the same person with another person with a pure mind, but he has no idea. He's clueless right now that his mind is pure. Then Arahant Moggallana asks, Arahant Sariputta, among these people, who's the greatest? Who's the best? And then Arahant Sariputta says, he teaches, between the people with impure minds, the person who knows their mind is impure is far greater than the person who doesn't know. So between number 1 and 2, number 1 is better. Then Arahant Sariputta teaches, amongst people with pure minds, the person who knows that their mind is pure is far greater than the person who doesn't know. So when their mind is pure, number 3 is far greater than number 4. Okay? So there's 4 people, 2 people have impure minds, and they know one person knows their mind is impure, the other person doesn't know. There's 2 people with pure minds, and one person knows their mind is pure, the other person doesn't know. So why is it? And then Arahant Moggallana asks, why is it that number 1 and number 3 are greater than number 2 and number 4? Why is it the person who knows whether their mind is impure or pure, why are those people far better? Then Arahant Sariputta gives a simile. And the simile is this way. Imagine someone has a bowl. Someone goes to a shop and buys a stained bowl. Okay, it's rusted, it's dirty, it has stains on it. And then what does this person do? Instead of using it or cleaning it, he puts it in an area, he puts it either outside, he puts it in a corner where all kinds of dust, the sun, the rain, all kinds of disgusting things are around that bowl. So what happens to the bowl? Does it get cleaner or does it get dirty? It ends up getting even more dirty. It ends up rusting. So Arahant Sariputta says, the person who has an impure mind and doesn't know he has an impure mind is just like this bowl, which is he has a bowl that's dirty and he puts it in a place where all kinds of dust, rain, the sun, all kinds of elements, all kinds of disgusting things can affect the bowl. And what ends up happening? The bowl ends up getting worse. Then Arahant Sariputta says, imagine there's another person. He also, what does he get? He also gets a dirty, rusted bowl. And then after he buys it, what does he do? He uses it. He uses it to cook. He uses it to do things with. And then he washes it. He cleans it. As he cleans it, as he uses it, what happens? The bowl ends up getting cleaner. So that person is like the person who has an impure mind. But he understands, okay, right now my mind is impure. And then what does he do? As he understands his mind is impure, then he's able to remove those impurities. When he knows, okay, my mind is full of anger, what does he do? Anger is something bad. Anger is something that leads to suffering. He removes that. And then over time, what happens as he uses it and as he cleans it, his mind gets purer and purer. So amongst those 2 bowls, the ones with the impure bowl The one that ends up getting clean, the one that ends up getting pure, is far greater than the other bowl. In the same way, the person with a mind who's with a mind that's impure, but knows his mind is impure, that person is far greater than the person who has no idea how their mind is behaving. It's far greater than the person who's clueless. Then Arhan Sariputta says, imagine someone again goes to the store and he gets a brand new, nice, shiny bowl. And then what does this person do? He ends up throwing it aside, throws it outside in a place where it can get dirty, where the elements or disgusting things affect the bowl. And then what ends up happening? The bowl ends up rusting. The bowl ends up getting it gets any more dirty. In the same way, there's a person at that moment, he has a pure mind. His mind isn't full of anger, isn't full of lust, isn't full of delusion. But he has no idea his mind is free from those things for that moment. He doesn't know his mind right now it's pure. Because he doesn't know that, then what happens? Anger invades his mind. Lust invades his mind. Delusion invades his mind. And what happens? He ends up getting an impure mind. His mind gets deteriorates, gets corrupted. And then finally, Arhan Sariputta says, imagine someone has a bowl, he buys it brand new, just like the other person, but he uses it, he cleans it, he washes it, he uses it in day-to-day life. As he does that, that bowl gets cleaner and cleaner. It gets more and more pure. It becomes very, very nice and clean. In the same way, when someone has a pure mind and he understands, okay, right now my mind is pure, what does he want to do? Does he want to end up getting it dirty? Imagine you have a nice clean bowl. Would you want it to get dirty and rust and get disgusting? No, you want to keep it clean. You want to keep it pure. So when someone understands, okay, my mind right now is pure and clean, he has initiative to keep it clean. He has initiative to keep it pure. He has initiative to develop it even further. He wants that mind to get better and better, not worse. So amongst the people with either a pure mind or an impure mind, the person who has an understanding that his mind is pure or impure is far greater than the person who doesn't know. Does that make sense? So amongst the people that actually know, amongst the people with that observe their mind, those people are far greater than the people that don't observe their minds. Why? Because as he observes his mind, he's able to tell, okay, my mind is like this now. My mind is impure. I should remove these kinds of things. My mind is pure. I should keep my mind pure. So when we practice developing our minds in our day-to-day life, it's very, very important to be aware of how our mind is behaving. Because otherwise, you can't ever develop your mind. So let's say someone wants to practice loving kindness. What does he do? He wakes up and he thinks, okay, may all beings be well. So now his mind he should understand, okay, my mind right now is free from anger. My mind is calm right now. My mind has a thought of loving kindness. Then as he wakes up and he goes to the washroom, maybe the washroom is dirty. Who dirtied the washroom? Who kept it unclean? And now his mind gets angry. If he doesn't understand his mind is angry now, that his mind is now no longer on loving kindness, then what happens? That anger continues. If he doesn't understand, if someone doesn't know I have anger in me, he can't ever abandon anger. Why? He doesn't even know he has it. He doesn't even know right now that's something bad. So what does the other person do? He thinks, okay, right now, my mind is angry again. It got conflicted with something I saw. I saw the washroom was dirty and I got angry now. Based on that thought, based on observing the mind, he thinks, if I continue this thought process, if I continue thinking in this way, then what ends up happening? Suffering follows me like the cartwheel follows the ox's footsteps. Why? Because based on everything, what's the chief? The mind is the chief. Everything is based around the mind. If someone has anger, if someone has jealousy, all their actions become also impure. All their words also become impure. But if someone has a pure mind, if their mind is calm, if their mind has loving kindness, then all their words, all their actions are also calm, also have loving kindness. So as he purifies his mind, then his words and actions get purified. His life gets better. So think about all the times you get jealous, all the times you get angry at people, all the times you get angry at work, angry at home, angry with your kids, angry with your spouse, angry with loved ones. All those problems are based around our mind getting impure. All the times where we want to take revenge, all the times where we do evil things, where we write mean things, where we talk behind people's backs, all of those actions and words have what? Have an evil, angry mind behind it. So if someone wants to live a nice, calm life, a peaceful life, what does he do? He tries to develop his mind. He tries to observe his mind and keep it clean. Does that make sense? So is there any part of this that someone doesn't understand? Vishaka, you understood everything?
Yeah.
Saveen, you understood everything? Is there anyone that's confused? Yes? Is there any part that's confusing? So how is it we practice this? Do you guys have an idea of that at least? How is it we use this? Okay, Vishaka, tell me how we use this now.
Like by practicing mindfulness, like every single, no matter what we are doing,
Okay,
being
but
mindful.
how do we do that?
At the moment we have an angry thought in our mind, for example, we should try to remove it.
Okay, but the goal of this Cittānupassana is to first see that angry mind. So he first sees, okay, my mind is angry now. That him seeing it is developing his mind. So it's through, so let's say someone's spending their day, okay? So he's going through his day and now he gets angry, let's say. Someone yelled at him or someone said something mean to him and now he's angry. Then what does he do? He first comes to Cittānupassana. He sees, okay, now my mind is angry. Then based from Cittānupassana, what does he do? He goes to Buddhanusati. He goes to Metsita, to Maitri, loving kindness. From that Cittānupassana, he goes to Dhammanusati. He goes to Asubha. He goes to impermanence. Whatever it is, he goes from Cittānupassana to that other meditation. So Cittānupassana is the foundation of us being aware of how our mind is. So it's through Cittānupassana that someone can see anger, see lust, see delusion, all those things he sees through Cittānupassana. So what we have to do is we have to get used to looking at our minds. Here's the thing. Why is it I got mad right now? Let's say like someone gets mad at work. Why is it I'm mad right now? I heard something. I heard that sound and my mind got conflicted. As he thinks that, he's doing Cittānupassana. He's developing his mind. Then he can switch to loving kindness. Then he can switch to something else. Does that make sense? Saveen, you have a question?
Namo Buddhaya Swaminatha, it's Saveen's mom.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know, like in the mindfulness book, it says, in this way he dwells contemplating mind in mind within
Yes.
himself. What is mind in mind, Swaminatha?
So here it's talking as he develops this, he's able to see cause and effect. So based on the four foundations of mindfulness, through Kayanupassana, through Vedananupassana, through Cittānupassana, through Dhammanupassana, the end goal here is to see cause and effect. So as he develops this, he sees what's the reason my mind is behaving this way? What's the cause for this mind to exist? And what does he end up realizing? He sees the cause is nama rupa. Name and form is the reason this mind exists. So we covered name and form in dependent origination, 𝘾𝙤𝙤𝙩, before in a previous lesson. But to give the short version, he sees, so in one discourse, the Buddha teaches consciousness or vijnane, chitta or mentality, and then mano or the mind. All those three words are describing the same thing. If someone's talking about chitta, if someone's talking about mano, if someone's talking about vijnane, consciousness, mentality, or the mind, they're really talking about the same thing. So in 𝘾𝙤𝙤𝙩, in dependent origination, it says the reason for consciousness is nama rupa. So what does he see? He sees this mind is only behaving in this way because nama and rupa are there. Rupa being the four elements, the four great elements, and anything that is made of those things. And through nama being, there's awareness. So let's say there's awareness, there's contact, there's feeling, perception, and intention. So that means, okay, so let's say you guys are watching this screen right now, right? So let's say someone comes to the room right now and says your name. Someone comes and says, Savin's mom, okay, from the back. Now your mind, how is it that it perceives those words? How is it your attention went from this screen to you hearing that sound? What happened was, so first that physical thing has to be there. If your body wasn't there, can you ever hear that sound? So the form, so the rupa portion of nama rupa has to be there. So the four great elements, something made up of the four great elements has to be there. If you didn't exist, then you can't hear that sound. Does that make sense? Then the nama portion also has to be there. What does that mean? First, as you are watching this, awareness has to occur. So let's say someone came in the room and they just whispered, Savin's mom, very, very lightly, so that you can't hear. Then would awareness switch from this screen to that sound? Like, would you hear that sound? No, because you weren't aware that someone's calling your name. So your awareness has to be there. As soon as your awareness changes, then contact occurs. Contact means in this case, the ear has to be there, the sound has to be there, and ear consciousness has to arise. Like consciousness in the ear has to arise. Okay, so ear contact has to occur. As soon as ear contact occurs, then a feeling, a perception, and an intention occurs. Then you turn around and look. You turn around with intention. It wasn't just a program, right? Someone didn't just use a remote control and turn you around, right? As soon as someone says your name. No, that process immediately happened, and you turn around and look. If someone called me, who called me? Or you say yes. Yes, who's calling me? Or you say something with intention. That's after you perceived, after you felt something. All of those things happened from the nama portion. That series occurs through nama. So from nama and rupa, that mind is created, whatever mind at that moment is there. Does that make sense?
Yes, Swami.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions? Serena, you have a question? We can't hear you. Do you have a question? Okay, I'm gonna assume no. So Cittānupassana is something that's very like that you have to actually practice if someone wants to develop their minds. If someone doesn't have Cittānupassana, then they can't ever see that their mind is behaving in a certain way. They can't ever purify their minds. So Cittānupassana is one of the most important parts of, that should be one of the most important parts of your day, which is always try to observe how your mind is behaving. And uh, like last week we talked about Vedananupassana, which is observing feelings. Like those types of meditations are very, very important, because just to see how this world is working. Like maybe like for example, let's say you see the news. Like let's say you see someone, there's a war going on. Isn't it these people are having a war just around feelings, just around getting a good feeling for themselves? This entire war, killing each other, is based around a feeling. Sometimes you see people like sweeping in the burning sun. They're in the sun, constantly burnt by the sun, having to do hard manual labor. And a thought should come, this person is doing all this hard labor, is suffering so much just based on a feeling. Why? As soon as he gets that paycheck at the end of the day, as soon as he buys something with that, as soon as he eats that food, as soon as he buys whatever he wants to make himself happy, he's willing to do all that hardship for that feeling, for that small feeling that's based on contact, that's based on something impermanent. All those hardships, all those people suffering in hospitals, all of those things that people go through are based around a feeling, are based around someone trying to achieve a good feeling. And when you see it that way, now what are you doing? You're observing feelings in others. Like you're seeing, wow, people are doing all this just for this kind of feeling. And people are behaving this way just to have a nice mind, to have a calm mind. What happens in order to achieve, as they try to achieve a calm mind in their life, their mind gets disturbed, their mind gets angry, their mind gets greedy. Well, all these people are doing all these bad things through a greedy mind. This mind is based around something impermanent. Those kinds of thoughts are very, very important for us to have. That helps us to see the world through the Dhamma. So isn't it just seeing every single moment, oh, my mind is like this, my mind is like that. In the beginning, it's like impossible, next to impossible, seeing all this. But having a thought like that at least once or twice a day is very, very important. As someone asked, Namo Buddhaya Swami, is Vijnana the same as the mind? So in that sutta, the Buddha explains Vijnana, the mind, and Chitta. There's no English word for Chitta. That's why I say mentality. But Mano, Chitta, and Vijnana, those, if someone's talking about those, then they're talking about the same thing. But in some discourses, Vijnana and Mano are described separately. But in general, you can say that when you talk about, since the Buddha explains that you're talking about pretty much the same thing. You can't really separate those three from each other. But sometimes the Buddha uses those three separate words to describe the behavior of something in a separate way. So Vijnana and Mano are explained separately so that it's easy for someone to understand, okay, this is what's happening here, this is what's happening there. If they're all the same thing, then it gets confusing a little. What should we do if we are repeatedly hurt, troubled for any person or thing? For example, what to do if mosquito bites you and you get any disease from it? So don't keep mosquitoes in your room. This isn't like doing Cittānupassana or doing loving kindness doesn't mean you get disease and you like live in filth. Like let's say someone's doing impermanence, you don't have to live in a filthy place and not wear nice clothes and drive nice cars. The point of developing our minds is to have a unconflicted, a peaceful, calm mind. So let's say someone has mosquitoes in it. There's two people and they're in the same room. There's a whole bunch of mosquitoes. One person angrily, there's stupid mosquitoes. Why didn't anyone get rid of these? Why didn't anyone close the door? And they angrily kill mosquitoes, let's say. Then another person, he sees mosquitoes and he sees these animals are living beings. If I kill them, if I get angry, then I have to suffer. I have to end up taking that karma with me. So that doesn't mean he lets the mosquitoes bite him. He captures them and releases them outside. So the both of them get rid of mosquitoes. One person kills, one person doesn't. But whose mind is more developed? The person who thinks these mosquitoes are living beings. I'll have to end up taking that karma with me. That person has a more developed mind. That person is able to develop loving kindness. That person is observing his mind. If I do this, then I'll have to suffer in the future. That's Cittānupassana. Right now, even though my mind is angry, this angry mind will make me suffer in the future. Now he, instead of just having a Dhammapada verse memorized, he's actually practicing that Dhammapada verse. Like a lot of people have that verse memorized. Mano Bhubbangama Dhamma, Mano Sitta Manomaya. That verse, like a lot of people know that. Doesn't mean they practiced it. Practicing that means actually doing Cittānupassana. Why? He sees, okay, I'm angry. If I do this, then I'm going to have to suffer. Just like that ox suffers as he pulls that cart. Like that ox doesn't have a choice. That ox, we get arthritis as we grow old. Don't animals get arthritis? Can that ox say, I have arthritis, I can't pull this cart anymore? Even through the pain, even through that, he has to pull that cart, whether he likes it or not. In the same way, if someone collects bad karma, whether you like it or not, whether you choose to or not, you'll have to bear that, you'll have to suffer for it. So as he sees that, that's developing his mind. So I'm asking, which sutta is that, please? So Cittānupassana is in the Mahasatipatthana Sutta. The discourse about the bulls, that's called Anangana Sutta, is Majjhima Nikaya 1, the first book, the 5th sutta in Majjhima Nikaya. And then the Dhammapada verse is from the Dhammapada. It's the very first Dhammapada stanza. Someone said chanting Khandapirita also helps. Yes, it helps, but you have to actually mean it, right? So if someone does it with meaning, like let's say someone chants Khandapirita, which is, it says, I spread loving kindness to 4-footed creatures, 2-footed creatures, no-footed creatures, many-footed creatures. He has to genuinely spread it. Does it make sense? So if he does that, that's him like actually practicing some way. So he goes to Khandapirita through Cittānupassana. So let's say he's angry at mosquitoes. Then he goes, he sees I'm angry at mosquitoes. Now I'm going to do Khandapirita. I'm going to chant Khandapirita. As he does that, he's practicing Cittānupassana. As you become more and more aware of your mind, then you're able to see, okay, my mind is getting attached to all these things. So most of the time, like really, from the moment we wake up, it's based around desire for things. I'm going to eat this for breakfast. I'm going to go do that after lunch. I'm going to go do this during my free time. I'm going to do that during my break. Whatever it is, we do it based on, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to buy that. All our thoughts are based around wants, around greed, around desires. So as he observes his mind on those things, he's able to reduce his attachment for those things. Someone asked, if my family members keep on annoying me, how is it I don't get angry? So let me ask, so based on what we learned today, which two people are the greatest? Like which two people amongst those 4 types of people in the world are better than the others? So there's someone who has an impure mind and he knows his mind is impure. That person is better than the person who has an impure mind but has no idea his mind is impure. Does that make sense? Then there's someone whose mind is pure, but he has an idea, he knows, okay, right now my mind is pure. Then there's someone whose mind is pure, but he has no idea his mind is pure. Amongst those two, The person who knows, again, is better, is greater. Why are they greater? What's the reason they're greater? Does anyone know? Can anyone explain to me why they're greater? Why are they better than the people who don't know? Ishak, you know the answer?
Sorry, Sensei, repeat that.
Why is it the people that know their mind is either pure or impure are better than the ones who don't know their mind is pure or impure?
A person who has a pure mind and who knows he has a pure mind, he will try to keep his mind pure.
Okay.
And a person who has an impure mind and knows he has an impure mind, he will try to remove those defilements.
Yeah, so that person has an idea that their mind is impure. But who's helping you? So this person asked, if my family members are annoying me and I get angry, how do I not get angry? At that moment, when your family members are annoying you, who's helping you to see that state that your mind is angry? Like, let's say you're driving down the road and someone cuts you off. So you have no idea who this person is, and most people, what do? Who gave this guy a license? He doesn't even know how to drive. Someone should take his car away, and then they yell and get angry. But at that moment, who helped him to see that he has anger? Who helped him to see, okay, right now my mind is impure? The person who cut him off. So when your family members are annoying you, are doing something to bother you, they're helping to see that your mind is impure. They're showing you, hey, look, your bowl is not clean. You should clean that. And then as you think that and you remove that anger, as you don't do anything to take payback or to annoy them back, then your mind is developing. Then you're removing defilement. Then you're cleaning the bowl. If your family members weren't there and you were just living by yourself in a forest, then you might think, okay, my bowl's clean. I don't get angry. I don't get greedy. I don't have delusion. I'm just living in the forest. I'm just chilling by myself. Then you have no idea your bowl's impure. No one's there to show you. So think, when someone's making you angry or someone's doing something to annoy you, that person is helping you to see, my bowl is impure. My bowl isn't clean. If only that if you don't have that help, then you would never be able to clean your bowl. You would never be able to remove defilements. So then those people are helping you. Then when you think that, then you should think, should I get angry at people who help me? No. Then you can get rid of your anger that way. Or you can try practicing loving kindness. You can try think that way works a lot, which is thinking these people are helping me to see that I have impurities, are helping me to develop my mind. Does that make sense? Does anyone have any other questions? Come on, can we share the? Yeah, you can share. We'll share the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, but in some of those, like in that sutta, I think some of those translations are a bit different. It might be confusing. So if you can, you should refer to the Bhikkhu Bodhisattva's book, because some of the translations there are, I think are a bit different. Like in Anapanasati, there's some words that are translated a bit with a different meaning. So be careful with that. I think maybe we shouldn't share that sutta. Like Mahasatipatthana Sutta by Bhikkhu Bodhisattva, that translation is very, very good. Translation by Lokuswami is very, very good. Some of the translations are a bit different. Okay, so you should be careful when you read the Dhamma as well, which is some of the translations are a bit different. So you always have to compare with the Pali to see what it's saying. Okay, so then if no one has any other questions, we'll end the program there. So today we learned Cittānupassana. We learned how to develop our minds by observing our minds. In that way, we practiced a very, very important and a very, very meaningful meditation that everyone should develop in their lives if they want to live comfortably, if they want to live peacefully, if they want to live a life free from conflict. So I hope all of you practice this. I hope all of you are able to observe your minds. By the power of all the merit we collected, we share all this merit with all the devas. May all the devas rejoice in this merit. May they provide righteous protection to all these lay devotees and their families. May all the devas also be able to escape from this long journey of samsara. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. We share all the merit we collected with our teacher who taught us this Dhamma, 𝗵𝗺 𝘾𝙤𝙣𝙣𝙗𝙗, and also 𝗵𝗺 𝘾𝙤𝙣𝙗𝙗𝙗, all the monks of Mahamevnawa, all the monks training in the Buddha's dispensation. May all the monks rejoice in this merit. May they be happy and well. May they also be able to escape from this long journey of samsara. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. We share all the merit we collected with all these lay devotees and their loved ones. May all these lay devotees and their loved ones be happy, healthy, and well. May you all have a long lifespan. May you all be able to realize the Four Noble Truths in this Gautama Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Everyone chant with me. Kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang acchayang kamame bhante bhuri panya tathagata. Kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang acchayang kamame dhamma sanditthika akalika. Kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang acchayang kamame sangha punyakhetang anuttara. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I will chant a blessing for you all. Abhivadana silissa nichang vaddapachayino chattaro dhamma vaddanti ayuvanno sukham balang ayurarogya sampatti sagga sampatti mevacha ato nibbana sampatti minate samijjatu. May you all be happy, healthy, and well. Theruvan Saranai, Namo Buddhaya.
Asura Science, may we ask forgiveness for all this.
Okay.
Asura Science, dear devotees, let's go to the floor and worship Him at silence. Okasa vandami bante maya katam punyang samina anumoditabbang
Sadhu sadhu anumodami.
samina katam punyang maihan databbang
Sadhu sadhu anumodate.
sadhu sadhu anumodami okasa dwarattena katan sabbang acchayang kamatame bante
Amami kamitabang.
okasa kamami bante dutiyampi okasa kamami bante tatiyampi okasa kamami bante.
May you all be happy and well. Theruvan Saranai, Namo Buddhaya.